Hi, I'm Kamali, taking you through some of the things people are talking about and some of the stuff they're sharing around the world on Newsfeed today. The Indonesian Spiderwoman breaks a world record. A show of solidarity by media in Australia to reinforce the freedom of the press. And a hop, skip, and a dunk a kangaroo makes for our Monday Animal Doing Stuff. And it's top of our newsfeed. Protests in Lebanon. People are on the streets for a fifth day. They've called a general strike, despite moves by the political classes to try and show they're acting on the demonstrators' demands by, for example, saying they're going to halve politicians' salaries. The Prime Minister, Saad Hariri, says he is making reforms to make the country better and not as a way of stopping the protests. He says he's not asking people to stop expressing their anger. And as we see protests in nations all over the world, like in Hong Kong, Chile, and in Barcelona, these ones in Lebanon are different, as you'll see. Here's Denis.
This is how the people of Lebanon have been expressing their anger at their government. With DJs, dancing, and good humour. Since Thursday, millions of people have been taking part in street protests across Lebanon's major cities. The demonstrations were sparked by a government proposal to put a tax on WhatsApp calls, but they've since turned into a wider protest against government corruption and financial mismanagement, nepotism and wealth inequality. At times, there have been scuffles. This video of a woman kicking an armed government guard was widely shared on social media as a symbol of the people's growing discontent. But for the most part, the protesters haven't let politics get in the way of a good party. These guys brought a birthday cake. And this couple even managed to celebrate their wedding. Photos have been shared of lovers kissing amid the chaos and of people taking selfies. But perhaps the cutest moment of the protests was when a woman told a group of protesters that her young son was frightened by the noise. They responded by serenading him with the most popular children's song of the past few years.
Okay, let's take a look at some of the other things that caught our eye on social media. Well, this video is going very, very viral. It's video for the world record for the women's speed climbing being smashed. That woman climbing the wall on the left there, like that, is Aries Susanti Rayu. She's from Indonesia, and unsurprisingly, people call her the Indonesian Spiderwoman. Well, that was 15 meters straight up, and it took her 6.995 seconds. Very impressive.
I'm very happy, amazing for me, and then my condition is not good. You can look my hand, my finger, but in place I can new record. Wow, amazing for me.
Well, some students in India have been sitting exams with boxes on their heads, as you can see, so that they can't see other people's papers. Their teachers are so concerned about cheating, they opted for this basic solution. The pictures of this, of course, have been blowing up on social media, leading to the school in the place called Haveri having to say sorry. Now, what do you see when you look at this picture of an EU summit? Well, Sophia Arman retweeted saying all she saw was hummus, and her tweet's got almost 500,000 likes. And if you see on the left, you got the EU leaders around a table, and on the right, it's a bowl of hummus. And it looks the same. Well, the hashtag RighToKnow has been trending in Australia after the country's main media organisations all published the exact same newspaper front page today. They're protesting against government censorship. Our Liz has more now on what could prove to be quite a moment for freedom of the press in Australia.
There's a media blackout across most of Australia's newspapers today who printed their front pages looking like this, with redacted front pages to protest against what they say is excessive government influence in reporting in Australia. Now, it's pretty uncommon to see the newspapers come together and unite for a common cause in such a fierce market, but they say that since the 9/11 attacks in 2001, there's been more than 70 new laws introduced which have eroded press freedom and also eliminated the rights for many whistleblowers. Now, this protest of a kind has been organised by a group called Know Your Rights Australia, who says it's the press that's been left in the dark.
The tax office can take money directly out of people's accounts, but you're not allowed to know. The elderly are being abused and neglected in nursing homes, but you're not allowed to know. The government can raid journalists for reporting the truth if it says you're not allowed to know. It couldn't happen in Australia. It's happening now. When the government hides the truth from you, what are they covering up?
Now, some Australian journalists have been using the hashtag RighToKnow to share some of the examples of when they've been stonewalled, like Josh Taylor from The Guardian, who shared a very redacted phone bill for the Attorney General. Not much to go on there for Josh. Or Brett Mason, who shared the bill he was going to have to pay to find out the cost of an MP's trip to Europe. He was told it would take 142 hours and cost more than $2,500 for the information. And while there's some critics who say they wish Australia's newspapers were blanked out all the time, like this bit of satire from The Chaser, there are plenty of others, like Andy Park, who say they're happy for the newspapers to look like this today, so they won't look like this tomorrow. Now, the Media Coalition has 6 key demands, and among those, they want increased protection for whistleblowers, new rules about what the government can deem a secret, and more protection for journalists so they are saved from prosecution. And at the moment, the government is holding a parliamentary inquiry into the impact of the government and law enforcement on press freedoms, and it will report back in a month's time.
And next, leaders from religious minorities here in Turkey have come together to deliver a message to the country's armed forces. And we will keep going around the world now for some other stories you need to know this Monday. Now, in Chile, at least 11 people have been killed during violent anti-government protests held all across the weekend. The government planned to raise subway fares, with a spark which sent people to the streets. There was looting and many stores have been destroyed. Soldiers are patrolling the capital, Santiago. Now, a state of emergency has been declared. The plan to increase these subway fares has since been scrapped. The police in Hong Kong sprayed demonstrators with blue dye from water cannon to try and stop protests, which have been running now for 5 months. The spray hits the Kowloon Mosque, which led to the city's chief executive, Carrie Lam, travelling there to apologise. People have also been helping in the cleanup. And simit, slightly Turkish version of a bagel, has been officially added to the Oxford English Dictionary this month. They've defined it as a type of ring-shaped bread roll originating in Turkey, typically coated with molasses and encrusted with sesame seeds before baking. They forgot to add delicious, or as we say here, lezzetli. Well, now for a story about a Turkish man called Ramazan Korkut and his daughter, and the length he's gone to make sure that nothing would stand in the way of his little girl going to school.
Okumak isteyip de okuyamayan, özellikle kız çocuklar için ya eline gelen desteğe sağlayın.
Bu yolu okula gitmem için babam yaptı.
İleride inşallah yeni nesiller yetiştirecek o da.
That was sweet. And we're going to have an animals doing stuff for you now. And this one is trying to evade the long arm of the law in Canberra. Now, this kangaroo was swimming in Lake Burley Griffin in the city. Now, it must be against the law in the capital because two cops on a jet ski tried to arrest it. Well, they tried, but the roo was having none of it and decided to take that hilariously dramatic leap for freedom. Now, apparently it didn't get very far and was soon seen hopping towards the High Court, of all places. And last up, we'll go back to our top story here at the end of the show. And that DJ you will have seen at the beginning of Denis' piece said he would never have imagined that his music would be part of the protests.
I posted on Instagram 3 days ago that I'm coming to the revolution. I will be DJing at the revolution, but it wasn't serious. I was just posting on Instagram to make like people see the people reaction. So when I posted the video on my Instagram page, people was like, yes, come, please, yes. Everyone was positive. Everyone wanted me to come and play as a DJ inside here in Tripoli in Lebanon. So I was like, okay. They all asked me, are you coming? I didn't answer anyone because I didn't know the answer if I'm coming or not. So at 5 p.m. I went there without anything, nothing, no sound system, not DJ set, nothing, just like everyone. I went with my friends. I was like, guys, what do you think? Should we do it? So my friends was like, okay, let's do it. In 1 hour, I rented a big van with speakers, like 8 speakers only. And I went to neighbors. They have a house. I told them, can I go out and perform like 1 hour only? They said yes. And the advantage was the people inside the house, they know my father, so it was good for me. And I went there and we set up everything in 1 hour. You see all the people, the van come inside, the big van come inside, and the long cable from downstairs to 3rd floor. And I went up and I played, and you can see. When I was playing the music, you know, like, I don't know the number of people, but I'm sure there's not only Sunni. I'm pretty sure. They come from everywhere in North Lebanon, and even from Beirut, they came from Beirut. So it was like one hand, everyone was one hand. Music is the connection of people.
Well, that will do from the Newsfeed team. Reach out to me with your questions, comments, complaints and suggestions. You'll find me, as always, at Kamali Melbourne. You'll find us 24/7 on YouTube. You can subscribe to our channel and you can follow me on Twitter. Follow, subscribe and add, and I will see you again tomorrow.